Welcome everyone to the Help with Math Homework series, right? So this is a new idea I've had where, because in my free maths help group on Facebook, I get heaps of questions posted there daily. So I thought I will answer your top 3 questions from that group here on YouTube so everyone can benefit from them, right? So today we're going to be covering questions on trigonometry, inverse trigonometry, complex numbers. And if you stick to the end, I'll go into details of how you can get your questions featured here. Alright, let's get into it. First question. So the first question comes from Grace. So you'll see the question in the bottom here. There are 2 triangles, each with a hypotenuse reaching up and stopping at the top of a building on the right. You have to find the height of the building. The large triangle reaches further to the left and the angle of elevation with the ground is 28 degrees. The small triangle has an angle of 40 degrees. Okay, so if we draw a diagram, we've got a tower here, or a building. We don't know the height, so I'm going to call it X. Then we've got a small triangle. So remember, these are no angle triangles with angle of elevation 28 degrees. No, sorry, 40 degrees, sorry, that's the smaller one it said. And then the larger triangle, which is further to the left, so further to the left, has an angle of elevation 28 degrees. And then it says the difference between these grounds is 275.59 meters. You don't know the distance to the bottom of the building, so you have to find that. So pretty much the question looks like we're going to find the height of the tower, and all we're given is the distance between the 2 points here and the angle of elevation, right? So the key here, in order to find X, would be to find this side or the whole side. Now, that way we can use basic trig. So if we dissect the problem, the only information we're given is this side here between here and here. Alright, so we're going to have to use this triangle to find this length y, because what we can do here, since this is 40 degrees, using basic geometry, this angle here is 140 degrees, right? They're supplementary angles. So what I've got now, I've got 2 angles in this triangle, one side and one unknown side. That means I can use the sine rule. But remember to use the sine rule, right? It's A on sine A equals B on sine B. So if we're starting with this side y, which is the unknown, the opposite angle is 28 degrees. And then the known side is 275.59. And its angle is this one up here, which we don't have yet. But I've got 2 angles in this triangle, 28, 148. So straight away, by angle sum of a triangle, it's 12 degrees, right? All 3 angles have to add up to 180. So straight away I can plug this in. So y goes with 28 degrees, 275.59 goes with 12 degrees. Right, and now we just solve for y, and all I will have to do is it's dividing here, so to move it up here, I times it over. Okay. And at this stage, you just get your pocket calculator out and plug that in. Right, 275.59 sine 28 over sine 12. So we'll use 2 decimal places like the question's done, to 9. And now it's the hard part of the question over. Because now I've got y, look at this is a basic 90-degree triangle. I've got this angle, I want to find that side. I have that side. So look at the ratio. If we go to SOHCAHTOA, that's the opposite side, that's the hypotenuse, so that's sine. So sine 40 equals x over y, which is, we found this here. So to find x, again we just times this over because it's dividing. So 622.9 sine 40. Again, get your trusty pocket calculator out and we'll put it in 2 decimal places. Well, what do you know? Exactly 400.00 meters. That seems nice. Alright, Grace, hopefully this helps, and let's go to the next question. Alright, next question comes from Rachel. Alright, so this is an inverse trig question. If y equals tan inverse, let's just write this down, x minus 1 plus a tan pi on 8. A is a real constant. Find the minimum value of A for which y is greater than 0 for all x. Okay? So to start with this, if you know about tan inverse x, the range of tan inverse x is that. Right? Doesn't matter, because tan inverse x minus 1 just means we're shifting the curve left or right. In this case, right 1 unit. So it doesn't affect the range. So tan inverse x exists between pi on 2 and negative pi on 2. Those are the asymptotes on that curve. So if we want this curve to be greater than 0, so for y to be greater than 0, right, so then we need this, instead of to be minus pi on 2, we need this to be 0. So this number here will have to be minus pi on 2 or greater. So we want a tan pi on 8 to be greater than or equal to negative pi on 2. Because if this is greater than or equal to pi on 2, pi on 2, right? Because what we want to do is shift the curve up pi on 2. Right, so if we shift the curve up pi on 2, now it's positive. So I'll just show you what tan inverse graph looks like. So this is the tan inverse. This is the tan inverse x minus 1 graph. So what we do is, if we shift this curve, so if we add this curve at pi on 2 here, this curve the new asymptote will be at 0. So the curve is completely positive. Right? So then the minimum value of A would be pi on 2 tan pi on 8. Right? That's the minimum values when this equals pi on 2. Now, I doubt that once you leave your answer like that, I probably want the actual value, so we need to work out what tan pi on 8 is without a calculator. So what you'll notice is pi on 8 is related to pi on 4 by the double angle relationship. So if we use the double angle formula for tan, we get 2 tan pi on 8 over 1 minus tan squared pi on 8. So doing this question, I'm assuming you have knowledge of these double angle formulas, especially if you're doing inverse trigonometry, which is a fairly complicated topic. Now tan pi on 4 is tan 45 degrees, which is 1. And what you'll notice is, if I'm just going to let this equal x, and look what happens if I let that equal x. So I'm just going to let this equal x, and look at that, that's a quadratic equation. Once I times it over, bring everything to one side, that's just a quadratic equation in x to solve for tan pi on 8. And we're going to go to the formula because we can't factorize this. So square that, add 4 times their product, 4 times 1 times negative 1, and becomes negative 4 minus becomes a plus over 2. Negative 2 plus or minus 2 root 2 on 2. Right, because square root 8 is 2 root 2, simplifying, and we get negative 1 plus or minus root 2. So you just got to ask yourself, tan pi on 8 can't be both of them. And it's this first one, right? Because negative 1 minus root 2 is a negative number, and pi on 8 is in quadrant 1. So pi on 8 is in quadrant 1, so it has to be positive. So therefore tan pi on 8 equals, if we rearrange it, root 2 minus 1, and we sub that in for A. So it's pi on 2 brackets root 2 minus 1. Right, that's the value of A, and if you want, you can, the question didn't specify, but you can rationalize the denominator if you want to. But the value of A is found exactly, so let's go to the last question. Alright, this last question comes from Joe, and it's to do with complex numbers, specifically locus. So a line in the complex plane is given by modulus of z minus 1 equals modulus of z plus 2 minus 3i. Z is a complex number, and it says find the equation of this line in the form y equals mx plus c. So the trick to doing this really neatly, right, you could do the algebra approach and let z equal x plus iy, but that's going to be very messy. Let's look at this. Let's rewrite this in the point form, right? So if you notice here, this is the point 1, 0. This is the point negative 2, 3. So what this locus is saying, so if I plot 1, 0 and then negative 2, 3, they're saying Z is some point here such that these distances are equal, right? Distance between Z and 1 is equal to the distance between Z and this point. So if you go back to doing locus in like earlier levels, if the distance between 2 points is equal, that means it's a straight line, and the locus of a straight line is the perpendicular bisector of that interval. Right? So we're going to use the fact that the equation of this line is the perpendicular bisector, which means it's at 90 degrees with this line and goes through the midpoint. So if we use that fact, we can solve this using basic geometry instead of having to use calculus. So I just need the gradient of this. So the gradient between here and here, if we just go, is 3 over negative 3. Right? Because it's 3 minus 0, negative 2 minus 1 gives you negative 1. So then that means the gradient of my locus is 1 because they're at 90 degrees. Right? Perpendicular lines have a negative reciprocal gradient. So this has gradient 1, and then the midpoint. So what's the midpoint? Capital M. So all I do is add these numbers and divide by 2. So 1 plus negative 2 and halve it, negative a half. 0 plus 3, halve it, 3 on 2. So that means the equation at the moment looks like this. Y equals x plus c. I just need to find c. So I sub the midpoint in because that lies on the line. So 3 on 2 equals negative half plus c, and c equals 2. Right? Add the negative half, you get 4 on 2, which is 2. Therefore the locus is just x plus 2. And look how simple those calculations were. Right? Using my geometry knowledge, the calculations were very simple. So Joe, I hope that helps. And let's now discuss how you can get your questions featured. Alright, if you stuck to the end, you want to know how you can get your questions answered here, so your math homework questions. Right? So if you want to get them answered, all you got to do is first join my free maths help group in Facebook. Right? The link is in the description. So then what will happen is the top questions voted by people in the group, I will answer them here. So depending on how many are and how popular this segment is, I might do this every week or every 2 weeks, right? So if you want me to do this every week, make sure to smash that like button and comment, yes please, do it every week, right? I need to know that you want this, right? If you want this, I'll do it every week. Otherwise, I'll do it every second week. But, alright, so hopefully you enjoyed this and your questions get featured.